She's,
By the way,
she was parking.
well, we are officially live streaming, just to let everybody know.
Your
Councilmember
sign.
McFadden.
Oh, it's outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I picked it up, you tilted it silly.
Maybe I might have to put the trash can.
Oh, that's what I did. I kind of.
Okay, everybody, thank you all so very much for joining us for the CSC Leon Governing Council meeting. Today is October 20th, and the time is now 4:04 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order. All right, so good afternoon and welcome to our meeting today. In accordance with our bylaws, the October meeting serves as the annual meeting for CSC Leon County to coincide with the beginning of the fiscal year 2022-2023. As such, we will provide the attendance records for the council members for the past fiscal year for your information. That information, I think, has already been emailed to everybody. Is that correct, Ms. Clay? All right, it has already been emailed to everybody, and then the public will be able to access that record on our website. This will also be made available on our website. All right, there we are. Okay, I want to take a moment. I definitely want to thank everybody for your participation and engagement as a part of this council. It's been a very busy couple of years and a lot of committee meetings and a lot of non-committee meetings, just busy. Everybody's been really busy. So I do want to thank all of you for your efforts, all of your time. It's a lot, you know, and I appreciate that. And we truly understand this is 100% voluntary, but your efforts are much appreciated. So that's a personal thank you from me, and then also from the staff and everybody else who would like to express that thank you. Okay, now I do want to remind the audience, we did have quite a few people in our audience today. If you would like to make a comment, please complete a comment card and give it to Ms. Clay. There are multiple opportunities throughout the meeting on the agenda where you have an opportunity to comment. So we just want to make sure you're all aware of that and take the proper steps to be able to have your comments heard. So with that, we're going to get started. And Ms. Clay, I'm going to ask you to please take the roll for me.
Judge Miller,
Here.
Mr. O'Brien, Ms. McFadden. Here. Mr. Jones, Mr. Hannah, Commissioner Cummings.
Here.
Ms. Connor. Present. Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Watt.
Here.
Dr. Glenn.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Awesome, we have a quorum. All right, thank you so very much. Okay, all of you have a copy of the agenda in front of you, and I would like to get a motion for approval of the agenda.
Chair, I'll move the agenda.
All right.
Chair, I second.
All right, well, we have an approval by Mr. Mitchell, and I heard a second from Mr. Watts. So thank you all so very much for the motion. Is everybody in favor to approve the agenda?
Yes.
Yes, all right, we are all in agreement. So the agenda is now approved. Thank you very much. All right, we will now like to open up the meeting for public comments. Ms. Clay, do we have any comment cards?
Yes.
Okay.
We have public comment from Mr. Jack Levine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for missing the September 15th meeting. I tried to keep good attendance, but I had a very good excuse. We were down at the Healthy Families Florida annual meeting down in Orlando. I would have brought a note from the director, but I think, you know, you can't be at two places at one time. I did want to make an announcement, and that is that on November 3rd, which is Thursday, there's going to be the 8th Annual Children's Summit. And we have a lineup of illustrious speakers. One of them happens to be your colleague on this council, Superintendent Rocky Hanna. Another happens to be your Executive Director, Stephen Green, who will be introduced by the chairperson, Dr. Glenn. And you should have received the invitation. If they did not come, then I'm going to personally, let me just say, I'm going to personally make sure that you have the time and date and place. We'll be meeting at the Jim Moran Institute offices on Monroe Street. And we started the morning with coffee and pastries, and then get to our subsequent agenda. Sheriff McNeil will be speaking, and several others, including someone coming from a national organization that we've been conferring with on the children's funding project. So I think the agenda will be rich and will also be very, very informative. And I'll take it as my responsibility to get you that invitation so you have it. I'm sorry if you did not have it before. But thank you for our two lead speakers. And I'm feeling it's going to be a very, very good and positive meeting about where do we go from here, or as we say sometimes, where do we grow from here. We purposely set it before the election so that we kind of get a head start. Every elected candidate, and every candidate for elective office in this county has been invited to attend there. So we'll see. Okay, thank you so much. I don't have anything else to say at this moment.
Thank you, Mr. Levine. We appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chair.
thanks very much. All right, any other comments?
No more public comments at
No
this
more
time.
public comments. Thank you very much. All right, everybody. It's time for us to approve the consent agenda. There are several items that are part of the consent agenda meetings, minutes from our cadre of meetings that we had in September, our council meeting, our teacher meetings, and then also the financial report for September is a part of the consent agenda, and then also the executive director's report. I hope everybody's had an opportunity to review all of those. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda unless there's something that someone would like to pull from the agenda for discussion at a later time.
Sure, I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have an approval. Do I have a second?
Madam Chair, second.
We have a second by Ms. Cummings. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. All right, the consent agenda has been approved. All right, I'm looking forward to this next presentation. It is time for us to hear about the summer 22 funding opportunity that we had and to hear the results of that funding. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Green.
Thank you so much, Chair Glenn. So as you have anticipated for a few months now, we do have a final report of our summer 2022 funding. Now, I'm going to have to turn my back because I don't have a monitor here in front. So what I'm going to do is get up and just kind of stand over there if that is okay, because I'm very, very excited. So as you know, we were able to award about $1.56 million for our very first procurement this past summer that started June 1st and ran through August 30th. So in total, we had 29 contracts for 30 programs, programs. So 29 entities for 30 programs. The total investment was 1.565 and some change $1 million. We did have some expected returns, meaning they let us know that they were not able to use every bit of the funding at $36,490 and $27. I think that is phenomenal, quite frankly, when you look at 1.5 million. So our adjusted investment, 1.529. Total families projected to have served 10,992, which I think is just phenomenal. So total families served 34,103 with CSC funding. So
please explain the difference between those last two bullets.
Okay.
Families projected, yeah.
So this is the amount that our programs projected they would serve. So when they did their applications, they told us with the funding to expand services, this is how many families we project that we will be able to serve. In actuality, it was tripled almost, over tripled.
I'm sorry, are those unique families?
So some of them may have received services from different programs. So the families are not all unique, but the services they received are unique. So no family or child received duplicative services. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yes, I see you looking, Councilmember Mitchell.
This is a good thing to be floored by numbers like this. I'm thinking to myself, the total number of families served at 34,000, that means there is at least a child or a parent in that family that was served. Even if they may have been served by two different programs,
Absolutely.
the actual human unit, I hate being so technical, but we serve 34,103 individuals in a county that is 300,000. So we touch 1 out of every 10 Leon Countyans.
Yes.
This is amazing. I do have another quick follow-up question. I wonder why such a big disparity between what they projected and what was actually served? I mean, I'm excited about it, but why did they not anticipate?
Obviously.
I think that's part of it. I think another part of it was being conservative with the number of people that they thought they could expand programming. And then I'm gonna let Holly jump in because she actually monitored the reports that came in monthly. But my feeling also is that they were very judicious with the funding. And so they didn't spend funds on an individual that they didn't need to spend. So if they were only spending the funds on that individual, it ended up costing less per individual than they thought. They opened it up and allowed more people to come in. And when you actually see the spreadsheets, you will literally see there were programs that thought they could serve, I'm just gonna throw a number out there, 30, and they ended up serving 130. So, and then Holly, I'll let Holly jump in because she actually monitored those reports every month.
I'll just bring your attention to the report that is a handout that should be at your desk. It looks like this on the front, starting, not that one, the other one.
We don't have it.
Oh, my bad.
Bring our attention to a box.
No, they have it.
No.
They have it, but
It's a,
oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
that's okay. So now this will make even more sense. Starting on page 7, so the first 6 pages are just a summary and kind of an overview of everything that happened, including some impact stories that we received. Starting on page 7 is the breakdown by priority area. That will tell you who was funded, how much they were originally awarded, how much they expended, their projected families by project served, and then the ones that they actually served, and then a summary of what they did. So you'll see that in there, and it has it for every single program that we funded. And so that's where you'll kind of see one that I think really jumps out to me is one of the mental health projects that we funded. So this is on the middle of page 9. This was basically a company that was going to work with existing summer camp providers to be able to offer mental health services directly to young people and their families. They thought maybe they would see about 54 families. They saw 422 in the space of 3 months. And in the impact stories that we'll hear, and we'll be doing more of, and we'll share some in just a minute, I don't want to take that away from Sika, is just what they were able to do in being connected. The big word that we like to say here is collaboration. Because we pushed that so hard, we had providers that discovered one another throughout this summer that had never worked with each other before, and that those relationships are sustaining now into the fall. And so we heard that from several of our providers.
And if I can provide one more quick story that is not in our videos, we funded a program to do kindergarten registration at Riley, which, as you know, had the lowest kindergarten readiness rate. She literally was not sure she was going to be able to register 10, 15. She registered 200. So she got 200 registered and made connections with other programs that will now be coming into that Springfield neighborhood for her to collaborate with to provide even more services to those children's parents.
So let me ask you, so the expansion on the services that we saw that took place the past summer was still done within the parameters of their proposals?
Yes.
As far as the dollar amount is concerned?
Yes, absolutely. We didn't have anyone who could not account for any of the funding that they received. And as you could see, we had about 36,000 that was returned.
I will say, when you go through the charts, there was a couple that their total expended, that the receipts that they submitted did exceed their contract amount, but we did not give them additional funds. So if someone that's out there doing the math, it might not add up when you get to the total expended. We just keep that in mind. They submitted their receipts and they were
Right. We didn't do any
102% of their
contract-
grant. So I was
Right.
like,
We
okay.
didn't do any contract amendments to issue more funding.
So the extra money spent was their money.
Yes.
That is correct, but they
Yes.
turned it in and said,
Sure.
this is what it took. So if we were to calculate a cost per child or cost per family, we wanted to include that. That's why we included the actual amount for expended.
Again, I'm floored by these numbers and in a positive way, but I just want to make sure I understand this. So the one, Holly, that you've singled out, Divine Healthcare, providing mental health services in existing summer camps. So if let's say Paul Mitchell is going to summer camp A and Divine is at summer camp A, and I show up Monday through Friday at that summer camp, and I go into Divine each day to get services provided, do I count as 5 families or do I count as 1 family?
So the numbers you'll see in the chart for the served, those are unduplicated families under each lot, like under each row. So that would have counted no. If it was one time.
Even if I went every day.
Even if you went every day, that is correct. What we can't necessarily say is that all of the families that were served are unique across all programs. So there is likely duplication of families across programs, but not a duplication of services within programs.
Right. So for example, if you remember, I think everybody here, except for Terrence, maybe had kids, and you remember in the summertime, you'd have a camp that would go 2 weeks, and you'd say, okay, now I gotta find another camp. Now I gotta find another camp. So you could have a child that literally did that, or a family that literally did that. So that's probably the easiest explanation for when we say across programs, they could have participated in more than one or received more than one service, but they're only counted in that service once.
Yeah, it's some of, did you have a follow-up question?
No, this is incredible.
I was curious when they report to you all their, the family served, did any of them give kind of like, without naming names, something like more individual stories?
So you will see a few, we pulled out 3 videos that we sent. I will
Okay.
tell you, we even have more videos, but these are service providers, they're not videographers. And some of them just a little, but
Everybody
As-
with a cell phone is a big target.
well, let the internet tell it, let World Star tell it. But one of the things that we will be doing as we move forward is showing them how to capture those stories, showing them how to video, how to capture the stories, what have you. Now, back to your question. So yes, there are all kinds of testimonies, and this is the PowerPoint presentation of this, but we will be creating a flip book that is electronic that will be linked to our website, and it'll be really pretty. We are not going to kill trees and print it, but you can download it and you literally will be able to see what each program did, what they told us they would do, what the outcomes of that are, and some photos and pictures of the program itself. What I will tell you is Holly worked really hard to try to have that ready today. She had to stop at 91 pages.
Wow.
So there was just no way with everything else we were doing, but we will have that available for all of our citizens to see that their decision is already making a difference.
So on that note, I know that there was a lot of concern about how quickly we had to put this on the street in summer, and I don't think any of us would say that wasn't a legitimate concern. We all felt that. But given these results, I'm just wondering if, in addition to the website, I think a cover letter with this from you to the city elected officials, to also to everybody who applied for funding, whether they got funded or not, to be able to get that snapshot back of what happened, so that we're doing sort of our maybe an open letter to the editor, but, some due diligence back of reporting.
Absolutely. I love it.
I love that idea, especially the letter to the editor, but numbers is, listen, I'm thrilled with the numbers, and I assume that there's quality behind the numbers. But numbers themselves don't tell the story, just because you touch, let's just say it was half of the number of families, 17,000 truly unique families. That's an amazing story. Did you touch them with a good quality program? So before we go bragging about, how great we are, which, by the way, I think we should brag about how great we are. I mean that. I just want to make sure that there is some sort of a quality evaluation when it comes to, do we serve them a piece of candy, or do we teach them how to read? And there's a big difference between the two.
And that was my question. So when I look at these, like, I'm excited by these two, do we have any assurance that what they said they were gonna do was actually met as a part of their deliverables for the work?
Well, what I will tell you, and I have not shied away from saying this, because we did put this out on the street. We did not, in tandem with it, put an evaluation RFP on the street with it, so that evaluation team could go in and do that kind of quality assurance. That being said, we stayed on the phone with these providers. We went to as many activities as we could attend. And I have to tell you, what we saw was amazing, and it was quality. We saw children. We went, and I can't remember the name of the program, where we went to used to be Walk On. The program that was out there.
Teenpreneur,
Yes.
the Teenpreneur Foundation.
So went to Teenpreneur Foundation to see what those teens did as far as starting that entrepreneurial piece. They have now matched with the Kidpreneur. So we could be fostering them in elementary school, then they move into the Teenpreneur program, then they move into, say, mentorship or Aspire. So we literally have kicked off what I believe is a quality way for our children to have different avenues for their imagination to take flight, so that they can see all the possibilities out there. Can I 100% say that there wasn't a day at somebody's program that maybe they watched a movie? No, I can't say that. But as a parent, I had days when my kids watched a movie because I had it, right? So, but that being said, I think that our numbers do show that for the most part, and I think better than 80%, if not hitting 90%, the families that participated in this program, in this programming, are better because of it. They are entering school better. And that is ultimately what we want when we look at the anecdotal. And as we move into our strategic framework and you see how we extrapolated and compared what you all wanted those categories to be against the needs assessment, we are moving in the right direction. And we will have that evaluation that goes along with it, so we can unequivocally say, yes, this is a quality program.
You have some videos? Can we see one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
part of the
presentation.
Great.
So
great.
I'm not gonna talk anymore. You can see the wheel and you'll get a chance to see it again. But this is zip code data, because we talked, you all talked frequently about wanting to know where the services were happening. So the biggest part of the services were in 32303 and 32304. Two of our zip codes where we know there needs to be quality programming. And then you can see the other zip codes there. And then when we, that's fine, Holly, you can move forward. And then when we look at the age range, so 13% 0 to 3, 14, 4 to 5, 11% 6 to 11. As we can imagine, the older the child gets, the less they participate. So 1% and barely a little percent. But
I
then
should
look at
probably
the,
put some dots on that one. It's not 5, it's not 0% for the
Is it
15 to 18.
it's like point something, yeah. But look at this, 61% parents and caregivers. And one of your areas that we will talk about in the framework is family support for caregivers. So we're already moving in that direction so that we've got more support for our parents and caregivers, which means that our children will have more support. So these are our impact stories. These are just some of the pictures we received. Isn't he cute? He's so cute. But these are just some of the pictures that we received. And I think the next one is going to be one of our videos.
Yes.
Yes, so this is Boys and Girls Club.
So bear with me. I'm gonna, hopefully the technology is gonna be our friends, and if it doesn't, then just give me a moment.
So if you looked in the background, we're gonna go on to the next one. That was Springfield. Really, everyone's trying to infuse services into that area. Go ahead, Holly.
Hi, my name is Chase Leonard, and I was a junior counselor at the Javasia Youth Arts Camp. And it was a really fun experience. I really enjoyed teaching the kids how to play cello, and I really enjoyed getting to know new people. And I'm definitely excited to do it again. Thank you.
So Javasia is the art camp, and I'll tell you, at the the summit on race and culture, Javasia had a group of the children there, and they were playing chamber music prior to it starting, and they did the Star Spangled Banner all in violins and strings. So it was pretty awesome.
They also sent another video, but it was 18 minutes. And so for the purposes of this, I did not include that in today's PowerPoint.
Creative Mind Solutions, Inc., a wonderful program. My daughter attended the program for the first time over the summer, and it was amazing. As a single mom, it is difficult at times to find affordable summer camp or childcare, especially if you're a working parent. This program provided the care, the time, the inexpensive summer camp childcare that you can find. This program was amazing. My daughter enjoyed every bit. The learning, my daughter just entered kindergarten. So going into the Creative Solution program, she was able to the program was able to enhance the things that she had just previously learned in kindergarten. Kindergarten sets the foundation for our babies, but that program, it really enhanced and helped her so that the learning never stopped, so that she was able to transition right into first grade. The field trips, the low-cost field trips, the food, the care, the love that they provided was amazing. There's nothing that I would change about that program. I would say maybe other than they need to open it up more so more parents can take advantage of this amazing program, the benefits that it provides, and just the amazing experience as a parent that it provided. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward to Riley attending next summer because we enjoyed it, and she enjoyed it more because she was able to take some food home. Not that she needed to, but she enjoyed the food so much till she was able to bring a meal home. So that made her day, and that made my day as a parent, just to know that you guys cared, and how important the kids and the students are to you. So keep up the good work. It is an amazing program. I look forward to next year.
So those are just 3 video testimonials that we got. So if there are any questions about whether this funding made a difference, whether it made an impact, whether the children and families who participated are different, I think the answer is yes, 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 and yes. So you have this. We will have the flip book up on the website. We will look into doing a cover letter to the editor to further publicize to our colleagues and our neighbors and all the stakeholders in Leon County that yes, we are moving in the right direction, and your money is very, very well spent. Any questions, additional questions?
No, I was just gonna say,
I'm gonna sit down.
going back to that point of, people being concerned about it being rushed and so forth, maybe at the end of the letter or toward the end, noting that, if we pass today the RFP, that there will be training early this year. I think that will go a long way to answering some of the concerns people had on the front end from last year.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, Suki, you and I had talked, if you remember when you did the presentation to the provider community at Renaissance Center in the city, whatever it's called. And I really thought that was, an amazing presentation. You did a great job presenting what the needs assessment said to the providers. And so we finished that, we're about to ask questions, and I said, here we are sitting here looking at a room filled with people I don't know, right? And I don't know what they do, but I sure would like to hear. So everybody went around the room, and as many of you were there, remember, they talked about who they were, what their program was, and a little bit about it. There have been a lot of meaningful moments for me personally sitting on this council. That was one of the more meaningful moments from that side of, a bigger picture. I think that something like that, that is not just for us as council members, but also the community, where the 29 programs, or pardon me, the 30 programs provided by the 29 providers could come in and, I don't care if it's, just a quick overview of here's what we were doing prior to the Children's Services Council. Here's what the additional funding or the funding period afforded us the ability to do for the children and the families in this community. And here's a little something. Yes, it's going to be biased. It's their interpretation of what the outcome was. But I would love to hear it from them, And if there are families like the young woman at the end who talked about her daughter and that want to attend, they may learn something about the 28 programs their kid, or 29, their child did not participate in. So I just think it'd be a good idea. It may be the kind of thing we can do in conjunction with the open house whenever Jacinta gets us ready. But I really think it's important that it isn't just readers of the Democrat or the 10 of us who are lucky enough to sit around and kind of get reports from you all the time. Really the community and the other providers sort of challenging each other as to, wait a minute, you said you were only gonna, provide services to 54 and look at your competitor hitting it out of the park with 422. That's a good thing. And again, those who didn't receive, to Liza's point, those who didn't receive grants can come and hear about the programs that did receive funding and maybe learn a little something from that as well. So just an idea of when you all can fit it in. And I don't think it should be an official meeting of the council, although we can, publicly notice it because I'm sure more than one of us will attend. But I do think it would be very, very useful for the community at large.
One thing to add to the comment you just shared, since I've been involved in the, I guess we want to say the child welfare area, it's been overwhelming to try to understand all the connection points. And I think that meeting that we had at the Renaissance Center, for me, was significant because it helped me really, there's another connection point. And I always tell people with this whole system, a lot of times I feel like I'm grabbing on the leg and not realizing that it's an elephant, and I'm just thinking about, and I think that's a good idea. I think I would think of that.
There are a few community events. I'm gonna put Christie on there. So there are a few community events that are on the schedule coming into November. I think one of the first things we can do is contact them. They've already contacted us to see if we'd be interested in some sort of participation. Those could be excellent opportunities to have just what you are suggesting for us to show those programs, have them come and have some of those testimonies so we can weave those in. Additionally, once we get our office, and we're almost there, we are going to create CSC TV, which is Holly, our contract special project manager, is putting together a TV program at which we will highlight awarded programs. We will probably ask you all to appear at some point. We will highlight things that are working in the community, just another way that our information can be accessed.
Like a YouTube channel?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I
So
think this is the beginning of our PR campaign.
absolutely.
Yeah, we're not-
No cost, PR.
A local, very low cost PR campaign. It just says there's gonna be a room, so we have the
Contained within the confines of our contract with
Brilliant PR
Holly.
people sitting before us.
Super
Yeah.
excited.
And so I'm going to, if you will allow me to take a point of personal privilege, because I think the discussion about quality and data leads us to a perfect opportunity for me to introduce a new part of our team. So we have hired a program accountability and research manager, I'm very happy to say, and she is here with us today. Her name is Stephanie Eller-Vaughn. Stephanie, if you will come up. Stephanie has extensive experience in data collection, analysis, development. She really blew me away, I will tell you, even though Dina was in charge of hiring her. But she really blew me away. And I believe that Stephanie is going to be an awesome part of our team and is going to help us provide that analysis and telling the story of what our funded programs do, but even more importantly, showing us through data where additional gaps are and helping us to either prove or disprove any hypothesis that we develop from the needs assessment and from the program data that we get. So Stephanie, thank you for coming. She does not officially start with us until Halloween on Monday the 31st, but we asked her if she could be here so you could see her face and get used to her. So Stephanie, I don't know if there's anything you want to say. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but if you have anything you want to
Happy to
say.
say anything, in what direction would you, I can tell you that I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of the organization. I'd actually been canvassing nonprofit United Partners for Human Services and any in those types of organizations saying, these are my skill sets, this is my love. My entire career has been in the nonprofit arena. Is there a possible need for somebody who loves analytics and also has to stay in the nonprofit arena? And believe it or not, it just so happened this position popped up, and I was like, oh, that's it, that's the one. So I have a certificate in program evaluation from FSU. I have a doctoral coursework for a PhD at FSU, a ABD. Just finished an MBA in data with a concentration in data analytics. And I'm really anxious to make a difference in our community.
And you have to tell them what your resume says, that you are a self-proclaimed data.
Oh, it's data geek. Yeah.
So we are trying not to be like so excited that we just kind of grab her and wrap her in saran wrap so she can't go anywhere. But we are just uber excited that she is joining us. And you think this is the start? I have a feeling that as we move forward, it's just going to get better. We may get, hit some speed bumps. Y'all know I'm not above a mistake, but I think we've got the right person to help us tell that data story and get the data with what we do. So Stephanie, thank you.
I just want to thank you on behalf of the council. We are excited to have you here. I think we love you already. So honestly, we appreciate the skill set that you are going to bring to this body of work, because we definitely need that. And you definitely are qualified, so we are so glad that Sika found you, and we are gonna wrap you up. Oh, Dina.
I'm just taking credit.
You found us.
Yeah, I don't know, it was a perfect synergy there. Can I just add one personal thing?
Absolutely.
My son is actually on the spectrum, and that's why I have a large career gap. I decided to stay home with him and help him through some of his issues. And he was actually a recipient of early steps. And so our family's insurance did not cover autism, which can be astronomically expensive. I had no clue. So it covered occupational therapy, speech therapy, and autism therapy for my child. And it was not based on income. And so that's the only reason we qualified. But it made a huge difference for us because it was probably in the ballpark of about $30,000 worth of therapy that we could not have covered in another way. So I feel very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I hope it contributed in some way.
Oh, you will.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. So we actually had her later in the PowerPoint, but it just seemed like the perfect moment to do that. So Chair Glenn, thank you for allowing
She
me
already
to-
had the data project waiting for her.
Yes.
She starts.
I mean, we got her computer, the whole nine, so we're just waiting. So I will turn it back
I
over
appreciate
to
that.
you.
Thank you so very much for the summary. I'm very impressed with the results that you all were able to share with us today. We've been asking for these results and they are here, so we appreciate that. And thank you all for your comments as to ways we can get the word out to the community about the wonderful work that was done. So thank you for that. Any other questions for Sika before we move forward with regards to the summer program? You get this, Kevin? You good? All right, let's move forward. All right, at this point in the agenda, it is now time for our general council update. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are no general council updates.
That worked very well. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Rowe. I appreciate that. All right, it is time for the committee reports. We have had so many committee meetings in September, so we're going to start through this. The very first committee report is the executive committee report. I will be providing that update for you all. We have been discussing the performance evaluation process for our executive director. So we did provide the evaluation instrument that we all had an opportunity to take a look at. We did provide it to Ms. Green to give her an opportunity to review it. She did respond back that she had no changes, so we were very happy about that. All right, so at this point, the evaluation instrument will be sent to all of the council members by tomorrow. So we'll be sent out via email. I think it's supposed to come from me. I'll confirm that, but that you all will receive it in your email either way by tomorrow. We are giving y'all 2 weeks to complete that evaluation. So we're asking that all of you complete it by November 3rd. If not, we'll start harassing you all, but please, if you could just take some time, it shouldn't take long. You all have seen the instrument. It's very easy to go through and complete the evaluation. But I'm asking for those to be sent back by close of business on November 3rd. And those instructions will be in the email that you receive. On November 10th, the executive committee will then convene again, and we're going to review the responses based on everything that you all have shared. And then we will make some decisions as a result of some of her criteria for salary adjustments or any merit increases. And this is outlined in section 9B of the employment agreement. So at that meeting, we'll discuss, okay, this is what the evaluation said, here's what we're going to do with that. After that meeting, I will have the privilege of sitting down with Ms. Green and providing for her a review of those results. As a result of that, the evaluation and what we would like to bring forward, and get any feedback that she has as a result of that conversation. That performance evaluation will be presented to the full council. So all council members will have an opportunity to see that at our next meeting and then make some final recommendations for any salary adjustments, merit increases, and everything for us to agree on and vote on at that meeting. So does everybody understand the process? Everybody knows to look for an email by tomorrow. And does everybody know when I need to tab it back?
November 3rd.
November 3rd by COB. Thank you very much. All right, I appreciate that. Okay, that concludes our update from the executive committee. And now it is time for an update from the nominations committee. Once again, I will be the one providing that update. All right, so the nominations committee met in September. Remember last month, the council did vote to keep the current officers in their position. So that will leave me as the chair, that will leave Mr. Watts as the vice chair, and Mr. Mitchell as the treasurer for this council. Today, the nominating committee will present resolution 2022-10 to officially designate the officers. So basically, we are ratifying the vote that we all took last month, all right? So at this point, I am going to entertain a motion for us to accept resolution 2022/10. Is anybody willing to?
Madam Chair, I move the acceptance of resolution 2022-10.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Do we have a second? We have a second by Judge Miller. Thank you very much. All in favor to approve the,
Madam Chair, public comment.
Public comment.
public comment? Thank you first. All right, at this point, we will pause for public comment. Ms. Clay?
There's no public
There
comment.
is no public comment. Thank you very much. No, I appreciate that. All right, so all in favor to approve the resolution? Aye, all right. Thank you very much. So that resolution is now passed. Thank you all. All right, it is now time for the investment work group update. And with that, Ms. McFadden, I will turn it over to you.
And we had our first meeting, and the work group is made up of representatives from the city, the county, Department of Financial Services, and a wealth, external wealth expert. It's interesting, I've done a lot of investment policy in the past, but always with nonprofits, and I didn't realize that government was going to be so limited in what they can do. So it's been an interesting learning experience for me. The group did meet. I will tell you the timing of our meeting impacted the decision of the group because it was, I think, literally the day before the hurricane was supposed to hit.
Yes.
And so therefore, we were very reluctant to say, this is what our investment policy is going to look like, when we didn't know if you guys are going to have to grab it and do disaster planning, right? So it kind of slowed it down. But we had a healthy discussion, and basically we said, you know, and this really doesn't deviate from, for those of you who've done investment policy in the past, of what the principles should be, right? And the key principles that are outlined on page 25 that we looked at were safety of principal, maintenance of liquidity, and return maximization. Now, when you say return maximization and you're talking about state funds, you're extremely limited. The maximization's like embarrassingly low, but we will do our best to do that. And so we, as our next steps, we are going to be scheduling a meeting. I think we're rescheduling, you're looking for dates right now. We will look at draft policies to establish internal and external investments and reserve protocols. And we will discuss what kind of an RFP process we would use for an external manager. So that's kind of where we are right now. Again, the timing of the last meeting kind of slowed us down a little bit, but I will say one of the neat things is the city, county, and DFS all shared their internal policies with us. And although they were significantly different, there was a lot that was aligned. So I think we've got some really 3 good options that will help us move forward. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. McFadden? Thank you very much for the update, Ms. McFadden. We appreciate that and the work of the investment committee. Thank you. All right, it is now time for an update from the Finance and Budget Committee. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you very much. So the Finance and Budget Committee met last week, and really we're focusing in on putting an RFP out for audit services. We are required to be audited. Because in our first year, it's going to be so nice at some date very soon to start talking about our mini year, but nonetheless, our first year, we took in so few dollars and put out so few dollars. Thank you, Mr. Ranger. And therefore, we're not required to have a full audit. However, we are going to have that 5-month, 6-month period audited as part of an RFP that we put out. The standard that is used by most is that you have an auditor selected for no more than 3 years in a row. for obvious reasons. You don't want the same set of eyes looking at this amount of money. And so our thought is put an RFP out for essentially 3 years. The mini year being one of them, the current fiscal year, and then whoever wins the award, it will be based primarily on price, because if you're an auditor, you're an auditor, you're an auditor, and you are a certified auditor, that they would be awarded a third 1 year contract. So it's really 2.5 years, but it's kind of 3 fiscal years. Anyhow, so that was the recommendation of the committee that was made up of me, Superintendent Hannah, Commissioner Cummings, as well as our chair. Yes.
Question or a concept for you. When I've done these before, sometimes we'll say you're winning it for 3 years, but there's the potential of an extension for an additional year. However, it's at the same price. In other words, we're looking at a potential inflation rate that's pretty high right now, 7 to 10%. If you build it in that there's an extension, but the extension can only be done at the existing rate, you may be able to, because they don't want to give up you as a client necessarily. They might take a little bit of not as high of a bid. So that's just when I
it is one. I think it's a great idea, and it's sort of the it was the impetus behind my recommendation that we give them the 3rd year.
But I'm saying even after the 3rd year, you
Right.
could stipulate, it could be an agreed on for an additional year per committee recommendation, but it would have to be at the same price. Otherwise, it goes out for bid.
Right. Again, only because of the type of service it is, as an audit. I mean, I'm totally open to it because the first year is only kind of half a year.
Yeah.
So it's really like you're scooping in. I would just say that you don't want the same auditor more than 3 years. This is the weird one because you have the asterisk of that first year, even with a good price. That's your way of thinking, Liza, is exactly why I was like, let's not do this every single year. Let's make sure that when they bid, they know that it's 3 years they get to bid on, and hoping that we get a better price. And I would be totally open to the idea of a 4th year, especially because the first year is kind of a nothing year.
What is the status of the RFP? The RFP's in the package. What would you like for the committee to do?
Well, the only thing that I'd like the council to do is, in fact, either sort of ratify what we as a committee decided, or if want to include Ms. McFadden's idea as an amendment, that there would be a potential for a 1-year extension at the same rate. That would be great. And just so you know, no one on the committee, well, it was my idea that thought that either no one on the committee was really qualified to select an auditor, or and that was not my judgment. That was self-described. And it's probably a good idea that staff also not be part of the committee, because it's an audit of how our books are being run and how the money is being spent. And so we threw some ideas out. I threw out the idea of Paul Whitfield, who runs the Division of Accounting and Auditing for the state, doing just this. Left him a voicemail. He left me a voicemail back saying, "Oh, heck, yes, I'll do it." This is a real quick thing. It's like, qualified, yes, who's got the best price? And is nimble enough to do something.
If I may, and I thought I saw Commissioner Cummings, but I do want to just clarify. So the draft that you have is for your review over the next 30 days. We can add a year option in there, but we will not release this until after you review it the final time at the November meeting. and then we will release it subsequent to that. So our timeline is,
But if we're going to vote on the RFP at the next meeting.
yes,
So if we're going to include a
Yes.
concept, again, one, I'm very supportive of Ms. Patton's idea. We sort of, while I don't necessarily need a vote, I kind of a head nod would
An
be
agreement.
nice. This
Yeah.
is something, a concept that most of us. Okay, I see enough head nods that I think we should just,
okay.
We discussed it, so.
yeah, and it's, yeah,
So we're gonna ask the staff to
Yes.
please add the option for the 4th year
At the,
at the, right, at
Same
the same price. If the council agrees on that. I mean, so that would have to be a decision that the council agrees on.
at that.
and it would have a clause in that says if you can't do it at the same price, then we will go back out for bid.
Thank you very much. And then we will vote on this, and we will ask everybody, if you've not had a chance to review the RFP, please take a look at it. We will be voting on that at the next
It's
meeting.
a pretty simple one. This is just auditing services of our financials.
Any other things?
No, ma'am, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, it's now time for the Program Services Committee update. Unfortunately, School Board Member Jones is not able to attend, but Ms. Green is going to give the update for that committee.
Yes, he sends his regrets. He had a previous engagement, but we need to move forward, so we are not going to push this to next month. So you can see the report of the Program Services Committee in your packet. You can see the members who were present at that meeting. The discussion was regarding the capacity building RFP, which you have in your packet, and this evening, we will be asking for the council to approve that. And then the other thing that was discussed was the grant, quote, grant making policy. So staff was charged with creating definitions so that we know and the public will know exactly what we mean when we say investment partners, when we say capacity building, technical assistance, all of those terms that will be used in conjunction with our investment making process. So with that, you should have received both a red line version and a final version of the capacity building RFP in your email a few days ago. What is included in the packet today is the final version of the RFP. And so with that, I am going to turn it back over to Chair Glenn to ask for a motion to approve it and then open up for discussion, public comment, and
Thank you.
what have you.
We did receive this via email, and I do hope everybody had an opportunity to review it. I am looking for a motion to approve the current RFP for the capacity building process. Do we have?
So moved as a member of the program committee.
Awesome, thank you very much. And we have a second by Ms. Connor. Thank you so very much. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Is everybody in agreement? Is everybody in favor to approve this?
So are we going to take public comment?
We need to take
Of
public
course,
comment.
Of course, I'm
Right,
gonna
that's
forget
what
about that.
that's
Yeah, all right, public comment. Do we have any public comment, Ms. Clay? Okay. No public comment. All right, thank you very much. I'm just gonna put a sticker right here on my board. This is public comment. That's serious. Okay, so let's take a vote. Is everybody in favor of approving this RFP? In favor, great. All right, thank you very much. So this RFP is approved, and we are gonna ask the Program Services Committee to move forward with this RFP. And I'm really excited to see this go out. That was big for me. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
All right, it is now time for our presentation of our draft strategic framework, 2023-25. Ms. Green.
Yes, I am so very excited to present this. If you will recall, subsequent to the completion of the needs assessment, you all went through a strategic planning session where you did all these little dots and you decided what your priority categories would be. And we were charged then with looking at those priority categories, juxtaposing them to the needs assessment and any other resources that were out there, and coming up with a strategic framework to present to you for you to discuss. This will help guide how we issue the RFPs, RFAs, ITNs for program services so that we now have more investment partners. So with that, we're going to start the way we always start, with the theory of change. So every presentation that I do, any of our teams do, that you do, when people ask you questions, you should carry this around with you and pull this out first. So this is our theory of change. I don't have to go through it because you guys know it. Guides everything we do. Just a reminder of our priority areas: success in school and life, healthy children, youth, and families, and nurturing families and communities. So these are, okay, I'm gonna get up, y'all, I'm sorry. Okay. I'll sit back down when I get to talk. So our investment categories for 2023-25 were chosen by you all, and these are in no particular order. So high quality early learning experiences, parent engagement, family support services, family navigators, prenatal and postnatal supports, supports for children experiencing homelessness, apprenticeships and mentorship opportunities, and youth gun violence. So we were also asked to look at how we can weave in some of our other categories, as well as some of those priority categories that you selected. So this is how we propose to do that. So under high quality early learning experiences, we believe parent engagement absolutely goes with that. So weaving those in together. Under family support services, again, parent engagement, and then family navigators goes with that. When you get to prenatal and postnatal supports, you probably see a theme: parent engagement. Then we get down to our last three: supports for children experiencing homelessness, apprenticeships, mentorships, and gun violence.
This is when I go to the news.
All right, so now we're gonna open up another presentation. And I think I can sit down, right?
Yes, you have it.
Okay, because I have it. Perfect. So I don't have to look behind me.
That is correct.
So what you see, and I hope my head isn't in the way, is our strategic framework.
Excuse me, you're going through what's on
Yes,
this
so I am
side.
going through the colorful chart now.
And anybody who is watching online, this is posted under the materials in the public information portal on our website.
Yes. Before I start, I want to thank Dina and Holly for working very hard on this to ensure that it truly was aligned with our needs assessment. Truly, we're thinking and contemplating all of the discussion that you all had. So I want to thank them for that. Yeah, it's their job, but they always go over and above, and I love that. So first category, high quality early learning. So let's talk about the theory of change. The theory of change says that we will impact that by increasing the number of children who enter kindergarten socially, emotionally, and academically ready. Our baseline data from our KOMs, kindergarten readiness, which was at 50% in 2021, and third grade reading, which was at 54% in 2022. So we have organized these in the objective, with the strategy, the description of what the strategy is, our proposed timeline, and a proposed annual cost. Let me, before I get into this, the proposed annual cost that you see here is an extrapolation. So it literally is not just a number that's pulled out of the wind, but rather looking at similarly sized CSCs and a few of our larger CSCs who have similar programs, and extrapolating how much money they invested, the number of children, families they served, and juxtaposing that to ours in respect to the percentage that I was going to say that we are at, but I would have left that preposition dangling, where we are and where we want to be. So that's how we extrapolated the numbers for the investment. So the first thing that we propose is the incentives program. And the description is, it is a pathways program to help stabilize the child care workforce through cash incentives paid directly to employees based on work history and education. Wage supplements range from $200 to $3,000 depending on the level of education qualifications. You'll see that we propose to do this in January of 2023 at an annual cost of about $400,000. Yes,
So this is an incentive to the providers,
to the teachers,
right?
yes.
Isn't this what the Early Learning Coalition, I mean, I know, let me answer that. The Early Learning Coalition does this, and the Division of Early Learning at the Department of Education just announced, I think yesterday, a record increase going from, I want to say about 48 million to 66 million. And it's directed at just this thing. I'm not saying 400,000, maybe we need that much more, but just for Leon County, or that's really for the Big Bend, of which Leon County takes a large share. This just seems duplicative, which runs counter to what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, my understanding is that funding goes to the center, for the center to decide how they want to deal with their operations. It does not necessarily go to the employees of that center, the actual teachers. The thing that makes incentives, and we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there are 5 counties that are running this already, is that it helps stabilize the workforce, because the only way that you can get the incentive payment is by staying in place at the center where you are working. And as you go up that education ladder, so going from a CDA to an AA to a BS to a master's, your incentive payment becomes more. Now, we will go back and double check.
I promise I mean, I sat through an entire, again, I'm also the treasurer there. So I got to go through the entire budget. There is a large chunk of money specifically meant for, again, we may be positioning ourselves a little uniquely. 400,000 is 400,000. It's certainly going to be helpful. But when I look at what the program does at the Early Learning Coalition, and 2, it is specifically meant for paying incentives to the teachers themselves, as well as training for the teachers. It just looks a lot like it.
So let me ask one more question, because there is another program called Teach, and Teach actually pays the tuition. That's not what this is.
No, this is.
So this is incentive?
Yeah, it's an incentive to their base salary. They would.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll double check and make sure we are not, because we can't, and B, we would not want to do that. So we'll double check with the ELC and just make sure that we're
That's a
not.
clarifying question, because maybe I need more background. These teachers we're paying, why are we paying money to teachers?
So for a long time in the early learning space, early learning teachers, the way that it has been referred is not considered professional, it's considered daycare, and it's not, it's early learning. So the amounts of money that those teachers get paid is very, very low. So what it leads to is teachers leaving literally one child care center to go to another child care center, and that doesn't bode well for the children. So there are several things that have been put in place, and one of them we'll talk about in this next one called quality improvement.
Traditionally, they're not called teachers.
Well, they're called teachers by the parents and the facility, but you do not have to have a bachelor's degree to work in a child care center.
These aren't employees of the Leon County School.
They're not Leon County school teachers. These are in private child care.
When we say teachers, I just started thinking teachers, then you start describing, I never referred to people in child care.
Early childhood educators,
Yeah,
but for all intents.
I'm sure they're teaching.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, they are teachers. And so there is a push to professionalize the field, because if you are doing a better job in that birth to 5 space, by the time they get to Carmen, they're scoring out better with kindergarten. So there is a whole push to that, to and Mr. Mitchell's point, from the state as well.
And Judge Miller, it isn't just a push to professionalize it, which Sika is correct, but it's also a recognition that they can't find people to fill these jobs, and to make them more attractive to be able to raise the annual salary for these providers. So it's kind of a combination. Right now, we are being hit by the most imperfect storm. Perfect in the sense that it's bad all the way around. You don't have enough interested employees, and you're not paying them enough. And even if you found someone interested, they may not have the necessary training to qualify as a true teaching professional. Doesn't mean there aren't teaching experiences going on, but done with a very intentional purpose of preparing them for kindergarten and life.
And Madam Chair, may I just make this observation too, which is sort of timely, because this is not only a local problem, but it's a national problem. Just yesterday, it was chronicled on the news, and I can't remember if it was California. I can't remember, but it was one state where they interviewed these individuals that indicated all the daycares were closing in that city. They couldn't find enough workers to work because the pay was so low. And then they interviewed some parents that were saying, I don't know what I'm going to do with my young child. So I think it's great, to incentivize and do what we can so that we can recognize these workers. They don't have to have a college degree, but guess what? They provide valuable services, for all of us. All of us have had children. We've had to resort to daycare and the early learning facilities and what have you. But it's a chronic problem right now.
Yes, ma'am.
And just kind of wrapping this up, I totally agree that if we do move forward with it, there needs to be the training component, because I know that the work that's been done around the country with the incentives, which has been led a lot by folks in Florida actually, really only works if you're training those teachers to become better, right? So that's really critical. The same thing I was gonna say, I have to apologize to everyone. I have to leave at 5:20 because I have a Village Square board meeting, which was on my calendar first. And I feel very strongly that because we've been moving our times and everything around, that I should stick with the commitments I made first. And so I will also be missing next month, and I apologize in advance, but I'm on the Florida State Parks Foundation board, and they had theirs scheduled. So maybe I'm overboarded. I love this board. I'm usually here.
No, you're not.
Councilmember McFadden, your attendance record is
But
stellar.
we don't lose the quorum, right?
No, you're not going to pass this today.
No, I just mean, are there any other voting issues that
No,
we could?
I don't think we have anything, no.
Okay.
But I will send comments in separately. And
you.
I
Awesome.
appreciate it, Betty. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
We have a comment.
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
So do you all have a mechanism in place to kind of cross-reference that, there aren't things in the pipeline or already existed, as far as what you've come up with?
Yeah, we will definitely double check that, because we were researching this like clear up until we did the presentation. And there is a lot of money, to Councilmember McFadden's point, very early, that's getting poured into early learning and early childhood. But we will definitely cross-reference to ensure that we are not in danger of being duplicative at all.
Cool. And I do like what you guys have presented here. And I just wanted to add, we can be data person, which would be very awesome. Even if we did and we missed something, right? To still be able to have that data to show whether it was impactful or not will help kind of support that we still fill a gap, perhaps, even with something that may have been there, but we kind of triggered it differently.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. What I have learned in the research, and then we'll close this down and move to the next thing. What I have learned in working with Holly, who is very, very knowledgeable of that early learning space, and Aaron, the building we're in right now, Aaron, is that there are so many pockets of early learning school settings, whether they're home, whether they're small, whether they're big, and the resources run the gambit. And you have lots, And so in Leon County, when you look at the number of childcare facilities and programs, we only have 23, 26 that are gold seal, maybe out of 200 and something. So what that's saying is we don't have enough high quality early learning, which takes me to the next point in the framework.
Before you move forward, I do want to emphasize what Ms. McFadden said, because when I read through this again, I don't see the emphasis on the training. So, I mean, it seems as if they're gonna get the financial incentive, which is great, but they're not required to do the training that we would like to see as a part of this.
Well, it's a part of the whole program.
Okay. all right,
So
just
we
wanted to
didn't
make sure.
put all of the qualifications in this
Okay.
framework, but the incentives program is an established program.
Okay.
It is evidence-based. There is a data component, and if you'll see when we go down to the partner and the source, the Children's Forum is the keeper of that program, and if we choose to invest, they take care of all of that. They do the monitoring, everything that goes along with that. So we just didn't put it in.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Okay. So speaking of centers, we believe that the next strategy should be focused on quality and infusing funding into quality improvement. And so these would be programs that allow our centers to meet the threshold defined by class assessments. And class is classroom assessment scoring system, and that is the state measure for whether an early learning center is moving into that quality space, that gold seal space. And so it measures the teacher-child interactions, and there would be a payment that is received, a payment differential on all children ages birth through 5 years attending their program. So the differential payments would be tiered from 3 to 15%, so that programs are rewarded when reaching higher levels of quality.
So the payment is going to the program,
So it goes to the center
okay?
for reaching those higher levels of quality. Class, and I wish I had thought about, but I'm gonna pass this around. I wish I had thought about printing out this flyer, but I did print it out for myself. But it talks about the class assessment scoring program, and the state is requiring that all early learning programs adhere to that, and I think they're only giving them, is it a year?
So, yeah, so class used to be at every 3 years on how they would generate, how they would monitor it, and now it's and now they do it every year. And the Early Learning Coalition provides the trainers and the coordinators and the observers to go in.
So as the programs get a higher level of qualification, the higher their
Differential.
Starting route to 1320 South Monroe Street.
Okay. So this would be an investment we would look to do in January as well, to the tune of about 1.2 million. So, and then the last program, and then our partner with that would be the Early Learning Coalition and the Children's Forum. They're in that space.
Again, I listen, I think these are all great things, but being the CSC board member that sits on the ELC, I feel like it's deja vu all over again. These are funds that, now, if we want to help the families who, here's what happens. First of all, the Florida legislature did just pass a law that requires essentially early learning facilities to be graded. And the Early Learning Coalition has the responsibility of grading them. And it's based on observations. They go in and they look at the interaction between the child and the teacher. And you get a passing grade or a failing grade, basically. So you end up with ideally, these very high quality centers. The problem is the high quality centers have teachers with masters and bachelors and NAAs and special certifications, and you have to pay them more. And therefore, it makes the center more expensive. The idea is, and this is with the Early Learning Coalition, they look to help the parent offset the cost of the higher price center. So to me, if we wanted to help parents who are struggling to pay for the cost of high quality childcare, I think it's a great idea, and I don't think it's duplicative of what the Early Learning Coalition is doing. But and as well as training is not duplicative. But the payment to the centers themselves, I think, is duplicative of what the Early Learning Coalition is doing with their, again, this is the Big Bend, but it isn't every county in the Big Bend. The bulk of this is Leon County. They just got an increase from 48 million to, I want to say it's 65 million, and they're not sure they can spend all of it. And so again, I'm not saying I'm against the idea. The concept's a good one. I just don't, I don't want to compete with the Early Learning Coalition,
Right.
who's not sure they can spend all their money. And in this case, it's $1.6 million that might be able to help parents who are struggling to pay the tuition for the early learning experience.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying, and that makes total sense to me. My question is, can we provide funds to the facilities that don't meet the criteria so that they can become eligible? So that, the parents have more options of these qualified facilities where their students can go, so their children can go. So for example, you said if there are 200 facilities and only 50 of them have this standard, can we now go from 50 to 100 qualified facilities? And our funding is helping increase the number of qualified facilities, whereas the funding from the other program is helping parents afford for their children to go to one of these qualified facilities. Does that make sense?
Well, I think you described what we would be doing in number 2.
Okay.
But this is what I would like to propose. Because it's not that of course, I believe what you're saying, Mr. Mitchell, for sure. But I think that there are clearly some nuances in all of these programs and the money. So what I'd like to do is literally create a chart that shows the money that is going into Leon County in early learning, the sources from where it is coming, what it is benefiting, and put that against what we've suggested in this framework. That way we can clearly ensure that if you go with this, if this is something we do, it is not duplicative and it is satisfying your intent for an infusion into high quality learning. Does that sound like that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then we can
I
also
need to see where all these different avenues are coming from.
And with that, we can also ask Liz, who is the CEO of our Early Learning Coalition for Big Bend, and Aaron Smeltzer, who is the CEO of the Children's Forum, to come. So now we have all of the information and all of the players to ensure that we are all collaborating and not stepping on each other. How about that?
But let me ask, but the baseline of this proposal is to infuse the Early Learning Coalition and the forum. Am I correct?
Not to infuse them, they would be the conduits to get this out to the qualified centers.
Okay, but they would be the service providers, I guess.
Right, they would
be the service providers.
Right.
Okay, and what I understand Mr. Mitchell is saying is that there is funding that's coming down that has already been approved that will be going to these two groups to provide similar type services, right?
I don't know about the forum, but he's definitely saying the Early Learning Coalition. And what I'm saying is that was not my understanding when we met with them to kind of go through what their needs were, where they saw the gaps, what the needs were, how we could come in to help complement the funding that they do have. So I think there's a disconnect there, and I just want to make sure that
And you don't look into it is what you're saying.
Right, that
I'm
we are
concerned
clear.
with Supplementation as well.
Right, because we absolutely don't want to supplant, but I think that there are a couple of different things that are working and weaving, and so I want to make sure that, right. Yes.
And I'm just gonna close this out. To me, as one member of the council, there is no more important bucket than early learning. I am a huge believer in it, and I want more and more funding. I just don't want the same thing, being overfunded and somehow, because believe me, there's plenty to be funded out there. And I'm just fearful that these are I sit on the board of it. Literally, we just had an executive committee meeting this morning. And this was one of the topics, including the Division of Early Learning's increase in funding, which is phenomenal news for everybody in this community, I promise you. So it'll be great to get to Liz and whoever the person is from the Children's Forum together.
So that'll be and then the last one, I'm pretty sure is not duplicative, but
Kind of new world.
well, sort of, but there are lots of different spaces that we can do this in. So it's book gifting. And so a program that mails free books, high quality books to children age birth to 5, no matter of the family's income. It assumes a 65% participation rate and supplements the existing entitlement program. So New World Reading, there's Dolly Parton's Imagine Library, and we are already working in concert with Grade Level Reading Leon. And so this would be a partnership with Grade Level Reading Leon, the campaign, and we're looking again in January at about $35,000. So then the next area would be family support. So the theory of change reference, increase resiliency and reduce the number of consequences of adverse childhood events, or as we know, adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. So our baseline data is the abuse rate, children experiencing abuse from 2020, and youth self-harm from 2020. So the strategy that we're suggesting 3 strategies. And so it would be to invest in a wide variety of evidence-based programs that reach children, youth, and families in their neighborhoods to promote the connectivity and better access to resources and increase parenting knowledge. So the first one would be parent education programs, family strengthening programs that would be designed to promote protective factors by helping at-risk families develop and maintain stable and nurturing caregiver-child relationships. And then you see everything else there, learning effective and appropriate parenting skills, enhancing family communication and conflict resolution skills, providing caregivers with social support and linkages, and they could be home-based or center-based, one-on-one or in a group setting. We would look to do this through a competitive procurement, and that would be a part of our funding that would start in July of 2023, and we're looking at an annual investment of $1.8 million. Family resource centers. Now, this is the one Jacinta gets very excited about being a part of doing this. So these are FRCs, and these are place-based resource hubs where families can access formal and informal supports to promote health and well-being in their families. The services can include parenting skill training, job training, substance abuse prevention, and the litany goes on all the way down to concrete support such as family, food and clothing banks. So FRCs are distinct in that they are uniquely community focused and are driven by the family need and offer a multitude of programs and resources. And there are nationally recognized standards. As a matter of fact, we will be going down to see Hillsborough County's family resource centers. I think they have 7 in total. They did do a procurement for the operator, the manager of that program. We are really excited to go see it, and the first resource center will be at our office. So we are suggesting that this would be effective July of 2023, an investment of about $800,000, and it would be through competitive procurement.
Is that, I'm, like, what cool concept. Is this sort of like what, and I know I'm gonna mess up the name of what it's called. I wanna say it's Sable Palm that they have.
Community
Service-
partnerships.
Yeah, is it,
This is more community-based. So Sable Palm, the community partnership school model, creates the hub at the school.
okay,
This would create, so for example, that hub eventually, actually it's already started, infusing into the neighborhood. So we would be looking to do this in neighborhoods outside of where Sable Palm is.
right.
And we would look at zip code data, all of that data to determine where we would go after the initial hub.
So
Is
so it's a similar concept, obviously serving a different part of the community. Again, that I'm not asking because I think it's duplicative at all.
Gotcha.
I just want to make sure, this seems like, oh gosh, this
Yeah.
seems like a winner.
Yeah.
To me. So it's similar in
Similar.
concept, but meant to be like a Sable Palm a few miles down the road or another part of town.
Family supports, because I honestly believe the foundation's broken, everything's gonna fall apart, right? So we gotta fix the foundation, and this is the family part. My question is about the dollar signs. So I know you said that they were based on what? Help me understand, like, how did y'all calculate this? We think this group's gonna get this amount, because for family resource centers, my mind's thinking we need a whole lot more than $800,000 to fix or to help that in Leon County.
Well, so let me go back to how we came to the amount. So we looked at programs that other CSCs funded and looked at the number of families, people they funded, what their investment was, and tried to extrapolate from that with our data. Now, I didn't do that formula, Holly did. And so I don't know if it's any more complex than that. And this is just a starting point. You could double it, you could triple it, you could do all of that, but keep in mind that we have to start somewhere. So it is my expectation that you might start this first year with 800,000, but as we create more centers, that amount is going to go up.
Fair enough.
That's exactly right. The only thing I would add, so the Casey Family Services has a lot of research on family resource centers, and they estimate about 245 to 345,000 to run a family resource center as an annual cost. And so this will cover more than two, but assuming that it might be three, which is why we kind of put it there. If Hillsborough has 7 and they're as large as they are, do we need 7? Maybe not, but maybe we do. And so the intention was to kind of start with where we could reasonably fund. And that research from Casey was a little bit old. So we were thinking, okay, well, 400,000, this could give us 2 and should be able to procure those out. But if we determine that there's more interest or that there's more need, we can certainly increase that.
Yeah, because the idea, and I am with Dr. Glenn on this, this is the foundation, this is what we build a house on. And there may be a reason that Hillsborough has 7, and it isn't really based on need, it's based on what they got. And if in their ideal world, and by the way, they've been doing it a lot longer, but if they had to do it all over again and start from the beginning, when these concepts didn't exist, they would have dedicated, more resources, and then that 7 could have been 14. Again, I'm just, these are the kinds of things that have these long-lasting impacts on communities. And by the way, you fix this and, everything doesn't magically fix itself after that, but it sure makes it a whole lot easier to attract teachers to go into a classroom where kids are, well-behaved and have the necessary mental health services provided to them. Parents may be struggling with addiction and those kinds of, all of, it makes it a lot easier of an environment to walk into and teach, so.
Yes.
Okay. Bear with me, Steve.
Oh, no, it's fine.
So, not going back to the previous, but ultimately, let's say that, because you will be looking for us, this is your proposal to us eventually. That we,
This is, yeah, our suggestion.
right, okay. And so, that first slide, okay, like I was looking at those numbers, and I agree with that. I was like, I think these numbers, it could be helpful, whatever formula that you're using, that's a part of the presentation. It may reduce a lot. I hear that they're being very, polite, but I know they still have questions. I feel it. And so that could be helpful and could possibly eliminate some of those questions and how you're coming up with those numbers if it's a proposal to us. All right. The other thing is, let's say that you happen to find some possible overlap in, like, oh, hey, there's this other group that's going to be doing the book giveaways. I think I might have heard that here recently too with somebody else. Even if you have that insight of just possibly articulating how it's going to be different. In this write-up, it could very well be happening, but what's going to be different with us is it's going to actually capture this gap that this group is not fulfilling. Like, I think having that information is going to be really helpful too in a long ways. And the other thing I wanted to just validate is, even when this goes out, if we accept this, for example, the fear about, okay, these centers are already getting money and there's a concern that they might not be able to even do something with the money that they're about to receive. These are folks that will be bid. This is not an automatic. These are folks that will be having to bid and then articulate based on whatever RFP we put out, right? Of how, yes. Right? So it's not an automatic. So ultimately they're applying for what we land on as an RFP. We've laid out what we're wanting to accomplish by X, Y, and Z. So if they don't meet those things, then, right? So, okay, I just wanted to.
Yes, and if I can even go a little deeper, because there are national standards now for family resource centers, that's why we are so excited to go down and see the model ourselves, because they actually, so it was a procurement, they awarded that bid. There is an overall director, then each center has a director, then you've got the man. So it is a full structure. And those centers meet certain standards, they meet certain metrics. So it's not just the room at the church and this is where everything is and you just come in here and get what you need. No, so this would be done in a competitive procurement with a proposal that talks about meeting the goals that we have set and how they will do that in concert with the nationally recognized standards. So our expectation is that not just anybody would come in and say, oh yeah, we can do that. They may think that until they see the RFP, because it's not just you being open and you've got clothes over here and food over here. No, it is a programming piece that goes on. So we'll be very excited to see it in practice, and then be able to just kind of bring that back and tell you what we've seen as we formulate how this would look.
I'm gonna just add two more things.
Yeah.
I think presentations are helpful. We didn't get this ahead of time, right? Okay. So even like it could help, and then we would have these things ready to already discuss or whatnot. I think that will help us. Presentation, I think the Hillgrowers, I've heard of it. I heard they are awesome. I've heard a lot of people talk about them. So I think having that visual too would remove a lot of questions.
Okay.
And then your timeline, when you talk about January, we in October and January for something, but that's y'all.
Well, the January, so let me go back to the quality, high quality early learning. So in the case of 1 and 2 specifically, those would be sole source. These are the only organizations that do that. So that's why we were looking to try to make an impact right away. And so that's why putting that chart together to be able to give to you to show the differences, the nuances, have Liz and Aaron come talk about the programs is going to be important because it's sole source, that those are the organizations with whom you contract. The book gifting program, again, grade level reading, that would be the impetus because we are involved in that. We are trying to create this grade level reading community, and Leon County has been trying to get it off the ground. So there are several different components of it. This would be the piece that we could do immediately, but there will be other pieces that come along and it's called the CSAP, and don't make me give you the words, but in that CSAP, there will be other pieces that come along through time, over the years. And so that's why we felt comfortable saying January 2023, because those would be
They're
sole source.
pre-existing programs, they already.
Yes,
Yeah, it's just-
yes,
okay.
yes.
Madam Chair,
Oh, yes.
just a quick question. Help me understand, when do you all need decisions made about this document? Because I was just looking, if we go line by line, we're gonna be here another hour and a half. I don't see the value of that versus us maybe digesting this and coming back and giving more meaningful input.
So we would need to kind of get this finalized in December. And then it would be, and let me say the reason why, so we were talking about strategic, but it's really a framework, it's dynamic. It will change and can change according to what may happen. So if you would like, because it's a 5:45, and this is the last thing on our agenda, if you would like to take it, digest it, write your questions down, send them to us, we can kind of compile and go through that, and we can put this on the agenda next month just to go through and look at those questions. We absolutely can do that.
Would y'all need us to give input before the end or at that meeting?
I would rather get it ahead of time. Yeah. So if we get it ahead of time, we can kind of compile it. So if you use this as your guide and make your questions go along with each one, we can get it, kind of compile it, even create something that tells you, well, we got these questions and these are kind of the answers, and then have that discussion next month.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I was looking at this like, I need a month with this, just kind of go through and make sure everything, is what we need. What I'm gonna ask you all to do, and this is if you all would agree, if you all could put together, it doesn't even have to be a survey monkey, but just a form, like, okay, give us your feedback on these particular things in this area. And it could still be by the strategy areas. It doesn't have to be by line item, but some way to allow us to give you all feedback and give us a deadline. We already have homework, to do your evaluation. So if we have a deadline to do it, that gives you all an opportunity to analyze it. And then let's go through all of that at the next meeting because I'm scared to know what's on the next page, because I'm still worried about how do I make sure there's more job training, those are the things that are important to me.
Yeah, so I will tell you, the last couple ones, there's still some stuff we have to do. There are people, there are connections we have to make. But we do want to look at what we can infuse, keeping our timeline in mind, that we are going to do summer funding, and I particularly want you to look at that one. And we are going to issue our RFP for priority funding so that we get a July 1 start date. So summer funding, we would have a May 15th implementation so that they've got 15 days before the summer. The first priority funding, we want to start July 1, which is when most of our providers kind of start their year. Then we would be looking again to issue another one around October in the beginning of the fiscal year. So just keep those 3 times in mind as you are kind of looking.
We need an entire meeting dedicated to this, just to be honest with you. All right, so if you all will provide that form to give to us so that we can do it. Does everybody agree to do that? I just want to, are y'all done with that?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I mean, it's very interesting. I was just like, wow, this is a lot to probably.
Well, we were, working on it. You can't imagine how quick these meetings come around. I guess you can. Yeah, you all are.
We don't feel as much as you all.
Yeah, I'd also point out there are a lot of, so let's just say that we've got $7 million a year to spend. Okay? And as you start looking at these numbers and you say, oh, and let's just say that that the Early Learning Coalition doesn't pay for an additional funding for teachers. And we want to put 1.2 million. Here's the thing, when you go to solve a problem like this, it's a recurring amount. So if we're buying into this, you better buy into it, because this is forever. Because this is very much like the state rejecting federal dollars when they are tied to, oh, we'll give you this amount of money for this year, or this year and next year, but after that, you're on your own. $1.2 million to for this particular category on a recurring basis. Again, I want to point out, salaries, benefits, and overhead of this organization, take that off of the $9 million we receive. The importance of our summer funding, which we all recognized we did quickly, which meant that we actually offered less to the community. You start adding that up, and then you throw in $1.2 million, which, by the way, if you give them $1,000 this year, there is a cost of living increase that goes with everything. You're building a program that is, one, I believe already exists, but regardless, forget if it exists or not, you're building a program that is recurring. So when we make decisions on a recurring versus a non-recurring basis, it has a lasting impact if it's recurring. Non-recurring, it's sort of more like the summer funding. And I think as you go through and start adding up those numbers, every time you add up a recurring, you are eliminating the process or the possibility of a non-recurring, innovative program that we could be funding in the future. So, as the numbers guy, that's what keeps me up at night. Sure.
One other thing too, I do want to request, so just like Mr. Mitchell brought forward the possibility of some overlap, and you said, we need to bring this person to the meeting. As we provide our feedback, will you please look for other opportunities like that? So if somebody comments, we think this is being provided, we need you to look into it. Go ahead and be proactive and bring those people to the meeting so we can have those conversations in the moment, if at all possible. I didn't want us to have to wait, for later opportunities to get insights from those individuals.
And for full disclosure, that one caught us off guard, because we have talked them. I mean, we had talked with them. We thought we were right on the money, so that one caught us off guard. But we will not be caught off guard again.
Yeah, I don't think the Early Learning Coalition understands your limitations on spending and how we are not allowed to fund a program that is otherwise being funded, period.
Gotcha.
They don't, I mean,
Gotcha.
yes, the member of both boards, I get to hear.
Yeah. So Ms. Green, thank you for your attempt to go through this. But I do think we need this. This is at night. It's something to drink, and I'm sitting down just going through this, and it gives all of us an opportunity to really digest this and really. I mean, y'all know what I'm saying. And that's a sweet tea,
And let me also say,
yes,
because I tell the team this all the time. Yes, we want to get things moving, but if we need to change these timelines to make sure that everyone on this council is very confident in the way that we move forward, we will do that. And so I don't want, so if it turns out we need to do, Holly's not going to be happy with me, because she's got to redo the timeline, but if we need to take another meeting, we will do that, because I want us to be very confident in what you all pass, what you decide you want to do, and you can go out anywhere and talk about that.
we have to get this right. So
Yes,
I appreciate
absolutely.
that. Okay. So I hope y'all are okay with that. Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you very much. We
Yes.
appreciate that, and we look forward to receiving the document for us to provide feedback to you all. Okay, so with that, I'm moving on to agenda item number 10, which is the next meeting date. Ms. Clay, I'm going to point out in everybody's handout on page 59. I am so pleased that y'all did this. I was so happy to see it. But this is a list of all of our future meeting dates and the locations and the times. So if I look for November, our next meeting date is when?
17.
There it is. Okay, November 17th at 4 o'clock, and we will be right here in this exact same location. All right. So please, I printed off a copy of this to put on my wall. So I'm hoping, thank you all so very much. We still need the invites on our
Yes,
calendars,
we will
please.
send
Yeah, but this was very helpful, so I could take a quick look at what those things are. So thank you so very much for that.
You sent like a lot of the calendar invites already, right? Because I've been accepting stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that.
As a note, this document lives on our website and it's updated the first of the month, every month. And we also have an interactive calendar that Sika showed me how Blueprint has a way that you can subscribe to their calendar, and that will soon be for us as well. That if you want to just subscribe to the CSC calendar, it will have all of our events, meetings, things like that, everything that's publicly noticed, as well as some of our community events. But I figured that just seems like, let's just put this in the packet so they see it.
I was happy to see it. Thank you.
But you will still get the invites. Now, you won't get the recurring invite for council meeting until January. So you got an invite for November and December. January, you will get a new one because by then our locations for every one of our meetings will be at our office.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Thank you so very much. All right, our agenda for our next meeting will be, of course, we need to add on the follow-up for our strategic framework. So that's a big portion of what we would have on that agenda. We will also have presentation of the council member disclosure forms, consideration to approve the integrated information management solution award recommendation, consideration to approve the RFP for the financial auditing services, and then the review of the draft investment and reserve policies. Is there anything else that I missed that will be on the agenda for next month?
That's fine. Would it be okay if, so as we're going through the
Framework.
The framework, thank
Yes,
you.
okay.
Could we also get a summary of our dots again?
Summary of your, oh, yes.
Yeah, because
yes, yes.
Again, I think it's nice that you guys have done this, and it's sort of an overview for us. But I want to be reminded what it was that the 10 council members selected as their priorities. And so as we go through, I just want to remind ourselves that these were the priorities that we all selected with our little dots. Not to say we can't change it, clearly we have. But it'd be helpful for me to just be reminded what those were.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right, it is now time for member comments. Do we have any comments?
I was just going to say, I really enjoyed the summer planning presentation. That was very helpful for me. And just appreciate the work that was put into to really share that.
Thank you.
It really is. It's just incredible. I'm so proud to be part of an organization that provided services to 34,000-ish, 17,000-ish families. For $1.5 million. That's incredible.
In such a short period of time, too. That was exciting. Any other comments? Ms. Carr, you good?
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say I am glad that we insisted on providing services for our children this past summer.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you.
Congratulations,
Awesome.
Commissioner. That was
Awesome.
It was our pleasure.
your leadership. It was, Commissioner.
Thank you all so very much. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, everybody, with that, it is 5:56. It's before 6 o'clock. Our meeting is